Hello and welcome to the very first episode of my new podcast, Lurk with Kirk. In this podcast, we will be talking about everything from music, philosophy, and whatever comes to mind. I am the lead guitarist of Metallica, but I'm also a very simple guy who loves horror, weed, and other fun stuff. In today's episode, we are joined by the legendary Phil Anselmo and Dave Mustaine. Phil Anselmo, lead singer and founder of Panteras, but singing isn't the main thing in his life anymore. Phil is focused now on training and getting his life back together. Dave, as you all know, is my former band member who unfortunately left the band.
You guys kicked me out. I didn't leave.
I'll let you speak in just a moment. But today he's in a band called Megadeths. Beyond being the legendary lead guitarist for Megadeth, Dave Mustaine has also found success in the winemaking world. Hello guys, welcome to the first episode of my new podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So Phil, let's start with you. What were some of your biggest influences growing up that shaped your vocal style and stage presence?
I actually grew up listening a lot to the Beatles and Creedence.
Excuse me for interrupting, but how does a heavy metal aficionado like yourself find inspiration in such peaceful bands like the Beatles and Creedence Clearwater Revival?
I was going to come to that. So, I didn't get inspired by them in a way that I liked them. It was just that my uncle were listening to these freaking bands all the time when I grew up. So I started developing a big hatred for that kind of music very early, which eventually led to that anger that later drove me to write some very hard metal.
That's a very interesting way to get inspired.
Isn't it?
Did you ever expect Pantera to have the massive impact it did on the metal world?
Actually, I did. I knew what my anger was capable of. What I felt was too real for music itself. But it could either be transformed into either poetry or music. I chose music.
So how did it all start?
Well, I met Vinny when I was like 7. Then 10 years later, we hooked up with the other guys. I think it was in like high school. We started out one day after music class. The teacher and all the students had left the classroom. It was my idea, actually. Vinny sneaked into the place where they put the guitars, and I was hidden in one of the bass drums.
Wait. What? Weren't you too big to fit in there?
I was like 10 and I was very bendable as a kid, even though I was fat. But those bass drums are bigger than most people realize. Anyway, after they all left, Vinny and I jumped out and started going nuts on all the instruments. I was screaming out on the mic as loud as I could. Words like "I hate school" and "math is not worth it" and things like that.
What about Vinny? What did he do? Was he aiming for the drums right away? Or did he try like bass first?
He was throwing himself over the drums before I could even connect the mic. I think he knew he was a drummer before I knew I was a singer. After a year of breaking into the music class, we realized that we needed our own place to play. So Vinny bribed one of the teachers, giving her $10 per gig to use her basement. I think we were jamming down there for 2 years. Then one day her husband came home earlier. He caught us, he got mad and punched Vinny in the stomach. I fled. Then I think he punched his wife too, according to Vinny.
Wow. That's messed up. You just left Vinny there?
What was I supposed to do? I was like 10 and her husband was like 40. Anyway, later I came back with a baseball bat and taught him a big lesson for punching Vinny. I later wrote a song about that, by the way. By the time we were 15 to 16, we had got our own place in my cousin's garage. Later that year, the other guys started playing with us too. We taught them everything we had learned. Then, eventually, we got our first shot at a concert. Everyone was digging it more than I could have ever expected. I mean, it happened so fast. After that night, we just went through the roof.
Through the roof. That sounds cool.
Dave.
Sorry.
Why be so hard on Dave?
Well, everyone has to follow the rules.
What rules?
On my podcast, I have certain rules. But yeah, let's continue with you now, Dave.
Sure. I'm just gonna say something before we start. I haven't slept like anything at all tonight, so don't get mad at me if I'm fading a bit here and then.
Um, okay. Why not just take some sleeping pills?
I hate pills. I think I have like 50 friends who isn't around us anymore because of them.
Wow, 50, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
Whatever. So what you been up to these days, man?
Well, the majority of the time these days goes to winemaking. But of course, I'm still playing from time to time.
Where do you live these days?
Still in Tennessee with my wife and kids.
How many kids do you have now?
2 little pricks, got them both in the 90s. But no more kids. And I ain't saying that because I hate them. I'm saying that because I'm just too goddamn tired these days.
Well, amen to that. And I've been through the same shit. I've also got 2 little bastards at home.
That's nice. Boys or girls?
2 little boys, but they're not so little anymore.
I feel you. One of mine is already 32.
Damn.
Yeah, time flies. But anyway, I couldn't be any more proud of them.
So, what's next for Megadeth? Got any new projects going on?
Yeah, actually, we're working on a new album called Death Hammer.
Death Hammer? Nice.
Yeah. So, we're not going to talk about the early days?
Sure. So Dave, I know this is something you've talked about a million times, but looking back now, how do you feel about the way things went down when you left Metallica? Do you think it all happened for the best?
No, man, I wanted to jam with you guys.
Then why did you leave?
You know I didn't leave. You guys kicked me out.
Maybe James did, but I was all for you to stay, man. And I wasn't even in the band yet. I had no power, no speaking voice to say anything that could affect your future in Metallica.
I don't believe you. There must have been something you could do. They liked you. You could have told them anything. Said that I'm way cooler than you are, or something.
Dave, please.
I'm just saying, the dude could have done something.
No offense, but I don't think either of them listens to what Kirk recommends.
Thank you, Phil. So let's continue on and let's forget about the past. So, winemaking, huh? What do you call your brand?
It's called House of Mustaine.
Good choice. So what's in it?
Well, I couldn't tell you exactly, because it's a secret family recipe. But I could say that it contains a very special flour and egg whites.
That sounds disgusting.
Okay. Well, what do you know about wine?
I have almost certainly consumed over 10,000 liters of wine in my life so far.
That doesn't mean you know anything about winemaking, son.
Who do you call son?
Guys, please, let's take a step back for a second. I think that we got some strong opinions here, which is great, but let's make sure we're giving each other space to share our thoughts.
I was done anyway.
So how about you, Phil? Got any new stuff going on in the band?
I got many projects going on. Besides working on a new song called Life in a Bottle, I'm also playing in an orchestra band and teaching kids how to growl at schools.
Wow, that's so nice of you to teach them how to growl. You teach them something else?
Some basic chords here and then, but mostly screaming.
Nice. Now a question out of the subject. Have you guys ever met before?
Yeah, we've met a couple of times. I think the last time was on the Ozfest in 2000.
That is correct. But I was probably too drunk to remember it.
Right. Well, guys, this is it for this episode. Thanks so much for joining me on my very first show, and please stay safe out there.
Well, nice to talk to you, I guess.
Have a good one, Kirk.
Bye, guys.